So, we're in this series called Anxious for Nothing, and we based it on Philippians chapter 4, verse 6, which says...
What'd you say?
Philippians
Sorry,
4, verse 6. You're getting ready, I know. I threw some at you that you weren't expecting. But Philippians 4, verse 6 says, be anxious for nothing. So we know that we do have anxiety, but we don't have to live in anxiety. So we can be anxious, we can stop being anxious. And so that's why we're calling the series Anxious for Nothing. But Andy is going to share, we're just doing an interview together, and she's sharing her personal story about how God has helped her to overcome anxiety. And then next week, we're going to finish up the series, and Evan, our worship leader, is going to be preaching. And in the context of that, he's going to be talking about a time in his life. He's going to be using the book of Jonah as a jumping off point. If you want to read the book of Jonah, it's only 4 chapters. And he'll be talking a little bit about how anxiety affected him and the steps he's taken to get past anxiety and get to a better place. And then if you're feeling kind of burned out, if you feel like you just like burning it at both ends and you just, Jesus talked about, come to me and I'll give you rest. So we're going to do a 4-week series on rest and how you can not only experience more physical rest, but also spiritual rest. So what does it mean to rest in the Lord? And in the book of Hebrews, it talks about that God desires that we would enter his rest. So as we work, there is a rest that we can enter into. So we'll be talking about that. So, and then this fall, just to kind of let you know what's coming, we're going to be talking about how Jesus has called us to be disciples. And he's called us to be disciple makers. That we can be a disciple of Jesus, but we can make a disciple of Jesus. Think about how simple this is. Be a disciple, make a disciple. And so there's a lot of people today, they'll never come to this church building. But they might go to your house. Or they might meet up with a couple of friends at a coffee shop. And so we are just praying that God would just give us a heart to disciple others. And so we're going to be talking more about that, hopefully offering some training and some ways that we can engage people and how we can start groups that help people grow. So, when we all come, we all do different jobs, but when we all come to the very end, it's going to be about our love for God, our love for people. And those are the 2 greatest commandments. So we continue to look at how we can live that out in this mission to be disciple makers. So tell us how you found out about Sanctuary.
So my sister and I kind of went on a hunt for a new church in about 2012. Can't believe it's been that long. But yeah,
they say days go by slow, but years go by fast.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
I can see it. But yeah, we were kind of on just a hunt for a new church, and we visited a couple ones, and obviously our search ended at Sanctuary. And I remember, the same faces I met that first day, still being very close to them, whether they're still here or they've stepped away from Sanctuary. And yeah, you make family here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember our first meeting at Starbucks with your sister Alex.
Yes.
Who was here this morning.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Seems like I can't even believe it's been. It'll be almost 10 years. I can't believe that. So
we're going to find out more and more about Andy and her life and what she's doing currently and where God has taken her. So how has anxiety been an issue for you?
Me? No. Yes, of course. I feel like for a long time of my teenage identity, I felt like it defined me, and I always had to plan for my anxiety to show up, whether here or there, and definitely a big part of my life.
So what was your earliest memory of anxiety?
Well, I don't personally remember this one, but my mom had told me the story of one time she was dropping me off at daycare, and in the lobby there's TVs and cameras that were in the classroom, so you can see, your child in the classroom. And she said she watched me walk over to the corner, sit by myself, and rock myself back and forth, which is like, that makes so much sense now. And now I know that was, one of the first signs of social anxiety. Other than that, I remember I switched schools from elementary school to middle school. I was about in 6th grade. And I remember that being a really hard transition for me. First couple of months, I had panic attacks every day. Some of them would even end in me getting sick or making myself sick or going home early from school. And I remember that being a struggle for, 2 or 3 months. And then another big part that anxiety showed in my life is that up until high school, I really could never spend the night at anyone's house because I just had such a huge fear and anxiety and worry of being away from my home and my family specifically. They say your family is your home. So, yeah, for sure. I remember it being present in many ways.
What about, so as you got on into high school, how did anxiety manifest itself during your high school years?
Yeah, I remember high school being a big turning point in like taking action, but of my anxiety. And I remember severely masking it and just trying to hide it from everyone. And you can only do that for so long.
Right.
And when my family had found out that it was, as severe as it was affecting my everyday. I remember someone in my family told me that they had felt like they failed me. And that's really hard. And I internalized that deeply just because my family gave me an amazing life. I grew up with a second mom with my sister and then a third mom with my grandma. And I had felt in return that I had failed them because it was never their fault, and my family blessed me in many ways. I had a great childhood growing up, and that was never their fault to take on or their responsibilities. So
yeah. And when we were talking and going over this, I felt the Lord gave me this verse where some people came to Jesus one time and asked why this man was born blind. And they said, was it because of their parents' sin or because of his sin? And Jesus said it was neither.
Right.
But it was to demonstrate the glory of God, which he then healed him.
Right. That's
a
great story.
Yeah, so it's like, it doesn't mean there was something, your parents did something wrong or you were doing something wrong, things happen. And we live in an imperfect world.
Oh, yeah.
There'll be a time when everything will be made right.
Yes.
But the good news is demonstrated by the fact that you're sitting up here talking so eloquently.
Oh, thanks.
It's amazing. The kingdom of heaven is now. It is not yet, but it's also now.
Amen.
Yeah. So, there was a study we've mentioned this in the series, that there was a study done by a group of psychologists, and they discovered that 85% of the things that people fear never happen.
Big number.
Yeah.
Wow.
85% of the things that we fear never happen. Which, here's what that's saying. It doesn't mean our anxiety is not real, but what it's telling us is not real. So we don't have to make someone feel like, oh, I can't believe you're anxious. But we do need to try to help them discover that what it's saying is not real, at least 85% of the time. And the other 15%, the Lord promises to be with us, to journey with us, and to see us through the calm on the other side of the storm.
Right.
So with that in mind, I'd like for you to kind of share some of the messages that you experienced around anxiety that felt real, but now were not real.
Yes. Yeah. So we can straight up call them lies, honestly. So one of the very first lie that I would kind of say, or message I got back then, was that I was incapable of peace. And I would never experience peace. My mind was always chaotic, running, what if, wondering. So yeah, that's the first one. Second one is that I was sinning, or that I wasn't a true disciple of Christ if I was as anxious or anxiety-ridden as I was. And then thirdly, I used to believe that I was alone and that my anxiety wasn't common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So lie number one, let's review them again. Lie number one,
Incapable of peace.
incapable of peace.
Yes.
That you'd never experience it.
Right.
Yeah. I had something that a psychologist told me one time as I started counseling, that he said, you'll never get over this.
Wow.
I mean, he's so encouraging, you know what I'm saying? But that was a lie, because I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So lie number one is that you're incapable of peace and you'll never experience peace. And there may be some of you in this room today that there's something that's happened in your life, and you've bought into the lie that you're never going to get over it. You're always going to have to live with it until that day you see the Lord. So, but the truth is you can get to a better place. Lie number two is by being anxious, you are being sinful.
Yeah.
And that you're not a true disciple of Jesus.
Right.
Okay. And then lie number three.
That I was alone.
You're alone.
I was alone.
You're alone.
Lonely
And that
night.
anxiety was not a common problem.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, as you've grown in your relationship with the Lord and come to a better place in your journey, and by the way, the word disciple means learner, and I consider you a great learner of the Lord.
Oh, thank you.
I consider you a true disciple because of the learning that you have pursued, and to know Him better, and He's brought you to a better place, because of that.
Definitely.
So those were three lies to counter those. So what we're doing is we're taking the three lies and we're going to counter them with the truth. So let's take the first one.
Yes,
the first one
All
is
right.
what?
Jesus countered the lie that I was incapable of peace, right, by saying in Matthew 11:28 through 30, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle of heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Right? So Jesus tells us by casting our anxieties by Him, casting that burden onto Him, He will in exchange grant us with rest and peace. And I think maybe the most important part of that verse itself is where Jesus says, "Learn from me." Right? He not only wants us to give us rest, but maybe teach us something. And I was telling Robert last week when Bridget gave her sermon, she reminded us of 5 things to kind of remember when we have anxiety. Does everyone remember that? Anyone? Maybe? Okay. And one of those was that ask God, what is He teaching you through this? Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important. That's what this verse is saying. I will give you rest, but also teach you something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So has that been a challenge for you, or what's it like for you when you experience anxiety now and you apply this principle?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I do is fight myself to remember to rest in the Lord. And I think that can be, in the midst of a panic attack or when that anxious thought comes. It's not easy to remember.
It's a choice.
Right, it is. It is. And it's not the first thing maybe you remember. The first thing you try to remember to do is calm yourself down. But by His word, we know that to help calm us down, we go to Him.
Right. Yeah. Because God's word is so powerful. Yeah. It's interesting. We're getting ready to do this series on rest, and and this relates. There's a rest that we can find, and by turning to Him from your anxiety.
I've always thought of kind of like, the opposite of anxiety is rest.
Yeah.
So, what a good series to follow with.
Yeah, exactly. So lie number 2 was that Jesus countered the lie that I was being sinful by being anxious.
Yes.
And that you bought into this idea, I'm not a true follower or disciple of Jesus because I'm anxious.
Right. So He countered that lie in Luke 22:39 through 43. "And He came out and went, as was His custom, to the Mount of Olives. And the disciples followed Him. And when He came to the place, He said to them, 'Pray that you may not enter into temptation.' And He withdrew from them about a stone's throw and knelt down and prayed, saying, 'Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done.' And there appeared to him an angel from heaven, strengthening him." Mm-hmm. Right? And Jesus made His request before the Father, and the Father removed those anxieties from Him because He cares for us. And, Jesus asked, "Please take this cup of suffering from me," but He also submitted to God's will. And just like we were talking about, if there's anyone who knows, how easier said than done that is. It is me for sure. You just, it might be the last thing that comes to your mind to give him the burden and give him the weight. And so we were talking about this week, being anxious isn't sinful, especially when you're a child or a teenager and you're learning how to deal with your anxiety, your worry, your fear. And, we can't prevent those thoughts from coming up in our head, whether it be about a social situation, money, work. You can't prevent anxiety-ridden thoughts, coming to your mind. But so being anxious isn't sinful, but staying anxious can be sinful when we know what the word says and to be disobedient to his word. He wants us to come to him so he can grant us that rest in exchange.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. That's good. That's good. So line number 3, Jesus countered the lie that I was lonely in my anxiety.
Right. So we just read, Jesus was anxious and he said, Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. And there appeared to him an angel from heaven strengthening him. So this next verse, Luke 22:44 through 46, and being in agony, so Jesus was still anxious. And being in agony from his anxiety, he prayed more earnestly. And his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. And when he rose from prayer, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping for sorrow. And he said to them, why are you sleeping? Rise and pray that you may not enter into temptation. So this verse is very humbling. When you think you have probably reached the most ultimate form of anxiety in your life, Jesus was sweating blood. Like that is the highest form of anxiety possible.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think I mentioned this, but these verses come from the night Jesus was going to be sent, the night before Jesus was going to be sent to the cross to be crucified.
Exactly.
So Jesus was anxious. Jesus himself was anxious.
Well, he was praying that it would be done. He was praying that he wouldn't have to do it.
Yes.
He was trying to say, Lord, if there's some other, Father, if possible, take this cup of suffering from me.
Yes.
Yeah, but not my will, but yours be done.
Right. And so I think that's a great thing to remember, in the midst of our anxiety, that Jesus himself was anxious. And sometimes we seem to forget that, we seem outcasted, or like I said, I thought I was alone. But the next one I want to mention too is Mark 14:33 through 34. And he took with him Peter and James and John and began to be greatly distressed and troubled. And he said to them, my soul is very sorrowful, even to death. We should not force ourselves to be alone in our anxiety, because Jesus went to his 3 best friends, his 3 disciples, and we too need people in our lives that we can trust and go to and confide in when we are worrisome.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I love how you said that we should seek people we can trust just like Jesus did. Yeah. And we need our 3 in our life that we can relate to.
Amen.
So let's kind of review the 3 lies. So the first one, what was the first one?
Incapable of peace.
Man, you've got it.
Yes.
Incapable of peace.
Uh-huh.
But the Lord is saying what?
Come to me and I will give you rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incapable of peace, but come to me and I'll give you rest. And what we can say that incapable of peace, but come to me and I'll give you rest. And it may not be anxiety that's a issue, maybe it's something else. So whatever the issue is, you can speak to that, and Jesus is saying, come to me, and I'll give you rest from it. Mm-hmm. And then the second one was that you were being sinful by being anxious.
Right. And the answer to that is that Jesus himself was anxious.
Yeah.
I was not alone, because he had already been through it.
Yeah. So he relates to you in your anxiety because he himself went through it.
Right.
Yeah. And so just to feel something doesn't mean you're sinning. And so the Bible says that Jesus was tempted and he was tested in all ways like we are. But he didn't sin. So he didn't keep living there. He didn't cross the line. So the Lord can help us to do the same thing. We all know that we've crossed the line. The Bible says that we've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. We've all blown it. And the enemy wants to remind us of our past. So when the enemy tries to remind you of your past, Just remind him of his future, okay? But he wants to remind us of our past, condemn us. That's a big tool the enemy tries to use against us, is how we don't measure up.
Yeah.
And we don't measure up because we were this, or we weren't a good enough parent, or we just lost our cool, or whatever it might be. I mean, it could be a number of things. The enemy continues to try to use how we've blown it against us. And but those are when we come to the Lord, the very ways that we've blown it are the very things God will use as a platform of how we can relate to a world of people who have blown it. So the good news is that we can move, if it's anxiety or if it's whatever it is, we can move, if it's losing someone that you love, like losing my dad. And just the Lord bringing me to a better place. I still have my moments, of course. But, the Lord can bring heaven near. And he can bring heaven near to you as you live in this earthly existence. And it's not, as he brings heaven near, it's so that we can bring heaven near to other people. And as we allow God to use us and other people's lives, it strengthens what he did in our life. So it's not just, we're to let our light shine out to others, because it's not just for us. God's blessed us so that we can be a blessing to others. And then line number 3 was that
I was alone.
You were alone. Mm-hmm. And the truth is
that we can have people to confide in, just like Jesus did.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So is there a new way that God is at work in your life where he's leading you to push past your fears and your anxiety?
So, kind of telling my upbringing with anxiety, I've always kind of linked an anxiety to school and succeeding in school. And I'm currently in college right now and just trekking on through. And I've always felt like I was pretty mediocre and just fine in my schoolwork. And so I'm really blessed that I am, doing as good as I am. And I have such a heart for what I do and very interested in it. And so I'm very thankful for that. Other than that, there's always times where I get through maybe a social situation or something that I'm holding a lot of anxiety about. And I just breeze on through it. And I just have to look back and be like, that was Jesus. Like, thank you, Jesus. Like,
yeah.
It's just prayers of thanksgiving, many.
I mean, maybe it's a gift, because Paul said he had this thorn in the flesh, and we don't know what it was. And he asked the Lord repeatedly to take it away. And God says that he says he didn't take it away, because he said, I want you to know that my grace is sufficient for you. Because it's in your weakness that my power is made real. And so the thorn in the flesh became a blessing. And Paul was able to rejoice over it. And maybe God took it away at that time, I don't know. But so your anxiety is a blessing. It's a gift.
Sounds crazy.
I know. Yeah. And look at how God is using it to bring you to a better place.
Amen.
And give you the tools to help others, because you're in school to be a therapist, is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Don't you all think she's going to make a great therapist? Yeah. You're so easy to talk to.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So call her Dr. Andy. There we go. That means you got to get your PhD now.
Yeah, I know. You're like,
yeah,
you're like telling 50 people here. I'm like, hold on.
So what are some final words that you want to say to people today?
Yeah, so, probably the most common verse you think of or hear when, it comes to your mind when you hear anxiety is Matthew 6:25. It's where Jesus gives the sermon, "Do not worry." And he tells us, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes?" And there's actually a song that the worship team has been discussing doing, and in it, they say, "If he dresses the lilies with beauty and splendor, how much more will he clothe you?" And if he watches over every sparrow, will he not watch over you? You know, he will watch over you. He will sustain you. And a lot of us hear that verse and maybe we think, Jesus, I'm not worried about the clothes on my back, or Jesus, I'm not worried about what I'll eat tomorrow, or maybe I'm worried where to eat. But, you know, we're sustained with food and clothes. But I think a greater message to kind of receive out of this sermon is that the more value you give to earthly things, the more anxiety you'll hold about it.
Say that again, if you don't mind.
I don't know if I can say that again twice. Okay, the more value you give to earthly things, the more anxiety you're going to hold about them, right? So maybe that is money or food and clothes,
Yeah.
you know, like the Bible verse, but maybe it's money.
Right.
If you value money.
Or social media.
Yeah, social media, social status. You
Social
know,
status.
if you go out every weekend, you want to seem very popular, you only post the good things on or social media, you know, you only post the good things on your social media, you're going to worry about that, and you're going to worry that you might fail in that.
Mm-hmm.
And something I heard once that has just really stuck with me since then is all the control that we think we have is all just an illusion, because it's not our control and it's God's. And this verse came to me and I wrote it down, and it's Psalm 73:26, when David wrote, "My flesh and my heart may fail." Our flesh and our hearts will fail. Mm-hmm. But God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Oh, you're going to make me cry.
I'm proud of you. Great sight. So can I pray for you?
Of course.
And then will you pray for everybody else?
Yes.
Cool. Lord, it's amazing to see what you've done in Andy's life. What you've helped her to grow past. Where you've brought her. She's not where she was. And it reminds me of Psalm 16:11. You lead me on the path to a beautiful life and to the joy of being with you. So I pray that for her, Lord. Lead her on the path. Continue to lead her on the path to a beautiful life and to the joy of being with you. And may she bring that presence of you into many, many people as she meets with them in therapy, as she connects with people socially, as she invites them to know more about what it means to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. We thank you for her. In Jesus' name.
Lord, we thank you for this series we're currently in, and we're eager for the last sermon to come and even the series after that on rest, Lord. We're grateful to always have your word to guide us where to go. And when we are crushed by our fear and worries, remind us of your power and your grace.
Yes, Lord.
Fill us with your peace as we trust in you and only you, Lord.
Yes.
You have already paid the ultimate price to carry our burdens, and we're so thankful for that.
Thank you, Lord.
It's in your name we pray. Amen.
So if you don't mind, can you just hang here for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take the mic. So we've done this before. Man, I tell you what, I'm just been a mess today. But real quickly, if you have a word that you just want to speak to Andy, I want to ask you to come up real quick. Like, do you want to give a word of encouragement, or you want to say something that's really how the message really spoke to you and how it helped you? But you got to do it in 1 minute or less, or else I have to take the mic from you. So real quickly, a word that God spoke to you that encouraged you, you've heard today, that maybe it's caused you to see things a little differently, or just a word of encouragement you just want to speak over to her.
All Right. Thank you, Andy. That was just so beautiful. I just see you as an overcomer. I don't know you very well, but the times I see you just in worship and leading all of us in worship, and the way you communicate and how you bring the team together and how you shared today, I see the struggle in you, but you are such an overcomer. You are not one that's shrinking back and letting the weight, right, of anxiety and fear crush you. But you're reading the scriptures, you're taking that stuff, you're taking it in, and you're saying, you know what, devil, I'm not going to put up with it. I'm going to follow the Lord, and I'm going to go after it. So, good job. I just think think the world of you. Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. I love your singing and part of the worship team, but the Lord wanted me to see, and you see, and we all see, anxiety is not a sin. It's where anxiety takes us. So thank you for that today, because the deceiver tries to throw things on our neck that don't belong there.
That's right. That's good. A word of encouragement or a word that God has given to you and helped you from today's message.
Hey, Andy, I just wanted to say that you have grown into such a beautiful and wise woman. I remember when we met with your sister at our discipleship almost 10 years ago, and I am just blown away at your wisdom beyond your words and your age. So keep it up, sister.
Okay. That's right.
I just can't stay away from this microphone. Guys, there's nothing, you can't even look at her. There's nothing more good. There's nothing better for a parent's heart than to see your child come along and love the Lord. It is the greatest blessing of your life. But what I want to tell you is through this journey, we didn't, as a family, as parents, we didn't always see this as anxiety, the way that it manifested, because not only because she held it in, but because look at this beautiful performer. She is a performer with a talent that she loves to share with the world. So when she would get up in front of an audience of 400 people and sing, we were blown away. How could someone have social anxiety or have these kinds of struggles when they can get up in front of everybody and just share their gift with the world? And so if anxiety manifests for you somewhat differently, and if you're having these questions about her, like how does she have anxiety when she can do this? It manifests itself in different ways. And so people may not even know your struggle. And what I'm impressed, like what I'm receiving to share with you right now about your struggle and your journey is that God sees you.
That's good.
God knows about that struggle, and he wants to deliver you from it, however it manifests for you. And so thank you for sharing your story. It's going to bless so many other people, and I better give you back the mic, or you're going to take it from me. Thanks.
Thank you, Cindy. Yes.
Hi. I just wanted to thank you for sharing. Recently, I'm going through a lot of social anxiety and what people think and what people say. And I started to go back to my old way of thinking about who I am. And today you reminded me that I just go to him, not turn away from him, not push him away. He is my peace and my comfort, and he accepts me. He knows my heart. So it's not what other people say that defines me. It is in him and who I am in him. So thank you for your message.
Thank you. Tony.
I just wanted to share that I really liked the word that you had of that, Jesus has been through all the same things that we've been through, and what an encouragement that is, right? That like we don't have to feel bad for going through the same things that he encountered. I had a similar, and him in the garden is such like a good, I don't know, just a raw place, right? Where he was going through so much, and like even I had a word once where I was like, Jesus asked for like the cup to be taken from him, right? Like he didn't want anxiety. He didn't want to go to the cross, and he asked Jesus, the Lord to take it from him, but he was willing to go through it anyways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, you did such a great job, and your worship is such a blessing to so many. And I felt the same way of like, how does she have anxiety when she can get up there and just worship? And even I think Evan said that after our worship night, we're like all jealous that you can get up and worship without the anxiety. So anyways, I've just praise God that he's let you at least break through in that place to share your gift with all of us.
All right, we got time for one more. Yeah.
Hi, Andy. I'm working to be very faithful to the word. So much in today. And I've been hearing this term stacking, and I've been doing it in my life, and I don't even know if I'm doing it right, but what I'm doing is working. So my version of stacking. But this message today, starting with Robert, that what he gave, 2 Timothy 4, I want to thank you for being faithful, because you do have social anxiety. You did. And you standing up here and singing all your beautiful, it's a testament that in your humanness, I know all those, there were several days that you were anxious, but we didn't see it. What we see is Christ. And that is how we make disciples, is seeing the light of him shine through you. And you have done that today. You were so calm in this, but I can see it in your demeanor. It's him. It's him. And I just thank you for being faithful, because sharing our word, being a scroll, that's it. That is our call to whatever we live in, to surrender it to him and share it with the world. And you've done that, and I just thank you. You're a beauty and a blessing. And so is your mama and your family, and you're one of my children. That's how I feel about all these kids that are my kids' age here. They're all my children. I talk to your darling daughter-in-law in the bathroom. I just love all the kids. So anyway, thank you. I feel like you're my child up here speaking, and I'm just as proud of it all too, and especially what you're doing for the Lord. He's glorified. Amen.
All righty. Well, if you want to connect with Andy, she'll be up front here, and I'll be here if you want to say hello or get a prayer. And Grant and Erica will be around too. They'll be happy to pray for you, because maybe you just came today and you don't want to leave without getting a prayer with someone. So we'd be happy to connect with you and to pray over you about anything in your life before you take off. So next week, don't miss hearing Mr. Evans sharing his journey through anxiety. And remember read the book of Jonah. And then we're going to be starting our series on rest, and then continue to pray. We're really praying about how we can be more of a disciple-making movement, and where we can see more house gatherings start. Because the early New Testament church met in the temple, and they met from house to house. And Paul said in Acts 20, verse 20, he said, "I taught you publicly and from house to house." So what we are going for is we want to train more people to be a disciple who can make a disciple, and we want to try to start more house gatherings. And I think it's possible that we could see 500 house gatherings around the city, that they're gathering to help people find Jesus. Because I'm telling you, y'all know this. I mean, you don't invite people to come to church because they're not going to come. Well, they might come to your house for pizza. So So be praying about that, and we hope to be rolling out some more information about that coming this fall. And because what happens if we get shut down again? Well, we can meet at each other's houses. So I have a real heart for this because I really feel like God's speaking into it, and I really want to invite you all to pray with me about it, okay? Because we need everybody praying about how we can be disciples who can help somebody else to become a disciple. Because that's what Jesus said, and I'm finishing with this, and I'll tell you I'm done. He said, go make disciples. He said, go make disciples. And a disciple, remember, is a learner, a person that keeps being hungry to know more. Let me tell you something, if you're hungry to know more, you're a disciple. And you can start right where you are to help somebody find the way. And we need every one of you doing it. And when you come to the end of your life, you'll be so thrilled that you were a disciple. And you helped somebody else become one.